Welcome to the Brothers War EDH. My name is Chris. I am a 2/2 human cleric, and that over there is Ryan, who is my 1/1 Death Touch Snake. Today we are going to be going over the top 10 cards in green from the Brothers War set. Again, we're going to go through our shoutout card first, and then 10 all the way to our number 1 card. And yeah, so let's get started. First card here we have is Titania, Voice of Gaia. Titania is a 3/4 reach elemental legendary creature for 3 mana, 1 colorless, and 2 green. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard and you both own and control Titania, Voice of Gaia, and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, which we will discuss in another video, exile them, then meld into Titania, Gaia Incarnate. So we're just going to evaluate this card based off of its front side. And then when we get into the Argoth, we'll talk about a little bit more on the meld side. So this card, base level 3 mana, 3/4 reach. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's good rate. It's just like you're going to need more than that in Commander, right? Yeah. You know, we already have something like that in if you're wanting a 3 mana 3/4 reach, you're going to want to play Endurance. I mean, that card is just obscenely more powerful than this card. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. So you can do a self mill theme here. You can get incidental life on your fetches. So yeah, yeah, Ryan, what do you think about this card? It just seems pretty basic at front face.
Yeah. Even like the meld, I mean, you know, if we even look at the meld part of it,
yeah,
it's not really good.
Yeah, it's okay.
And like even the land is not that good either. And so it's like you're probably gonna be playing both of these anyways.
Yeah,
just for the meld to get the extra value, but just this by itself, yeah, maybe you can do some cool life gain stuff with like fetch lands and self mill like dredge stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But overall, it's I mean it's not like great. I don't really know why it's a mythic, honestly. It doesn't seem to be mythic.
One thing I wanted to mention about this card is if you're running mono green, this and Argoth are basically, I want to say they're almost staples in almost every mono green deck, because generally mono green decks have landfall themes, and this is basically, the land is basically a freebie in mono green decks, right? Because you have so many land slots, you have so many utility land slots, and if you add this and that, being able to flip and then getting all your lands to the battlefield, like, it just seems like a card that doesn't have a lot. It doesn't take a lot to bring, like, it doesn't have a lot of opportunity cost to just put into your almost every single mono green deck.
Yeah, it's almost like it's just free cards, honestly. Number 10 on our list, we have Audacity. It's a 1 mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. When it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. It's a decent enchantment. I mean, for Commander, I mean, I know that there's that what's the green white enchantment legend? Was it Sephiroth or
no,
not Sephiroth. That's the dungeon one. Sithis.
Oh yeah.
Sithis. Sithis could see this because you draw a card off of Sithis, and then if something happens to Sithis, this goes into the graveyard and you draw a card again. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to go more of like the Voltron route with that instead of the like traditional like enchantment storm route, it gives a trample and it buffs its power, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with this card is that it's just so efficient. At 1 green mana, you're drawing a card and you're giving a creature +2/+0 and trample, and that stays there. It's not like a giant growth +3/+3 until end of turn with no card draw. You're being able to keep an enchantment on a creature, or give it trample, and then when it dies, when an Audacity goes in the graveyard, you just draw a card, and it's all for 1 mana. So like, it's just very efficient. So I could see this if you're looking to find cheaper ways in mono green to just draw cards. Mono green generally has a lot of heavy beaters, so being able to push through a little bit of extra damage and then draw a card whenever they leave, or whenever this leaves, I feel like it's pretty good rate.
Yeah, for sure.
At number 9, we have Perennial Behemoth, 5 mana, 2/7 artifact creature beast. You may play land cards from your graveyard, and it's got Unearth for 2 green. This card is just another playing lands from your graveyard card. I mean, artifacts aren't hard to cheat onto the battlefield, and it doesn't cost any color pips unless you're trying to get it for 2 green in the yard. So like, I just think that this card is worth noting because, you know, there's not too many cards that say you may play lands from your graveyard, maybe less than 5. So this just adds another way to do that.
There's definitely not a lot. And the Unearth, you know, that comes up. Let's say you're trying to get some extra value on your turn and you just unearth this and you can just keep on playing more lands. And yeah, you know, it gets exiled and everything, but hey, you know, you get to do it for very, very cheap if it's in your graveyard. Yeah, it's like you play it and then you get the value. If someone kills it, then you can unearth it. Yeah, and you know, it's an artifact, and you know, there might be some space in the future for like an artifact deck with more green in it. Yeah. So if
you're looking to play lands from your graveyard, mono green doesn't have a problem getting to 5 mana. It's just really simple, especially 5 colorless mana. So I think that this will be a good fit in for those landfall decks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Moving on to number 8 on our list, it is going to be Fade from History. It's a 4 mana sorcery. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token, then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Effects like this in green, where you like destroy all artifacts and enchantments, I think it's a pretty rare thing, right? In green, because I know that they have like Tranquility.
Yeah, Rampage of the Clans, which is instant speed.
Yeah,
I used to run it in Tago Ick.
Because normally it's like one or the other. I don't even know if there's even a card that just destroys all artifacts in green. But like you know the ones that like come to mind are stuff like you got like Bane of Progress destroys all artifacts and enchantments. Yeah, that's like the only one that I can really think of.
Yeah, I like this card because green. It's really, really cool in green's color pie, because green has just creatures, heavy creatures. They just want to beat face, and if your deck can support this card, not being like having mana dorks as your mana ramp and you know, using creatures as your value engine, I think that you could put this card in your deck and have a one-sided board wipe for, you know, your opponents. So and you can get a bear out of it.
It would be one-sided. That is a very good upside to this card.
Yeah, and well, you'd have to build your deck around. Right, I mean, you would have to not care about losing your artifacts or enchantments. Right. Which I know there's one green enchantment that I would run in every deck, which is Sylvan Library. So, yeah. I mean, still, I'd probably, if I only had a Sylvan Library, I'd probably still run this card. Next, we have Bushwack. 1 mana sorcery. You choose one. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Or target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. This card at 1 green mana is either a cantrip for a land, or you can fight a creature you don't control for 1 green mana. And, you know, I like how green's getting more efficient ways to be able to do this. Usually you find these effects, these fight effects at like 2 or 3 mana. Not only can you fight for 1 green mana, but you can also search your library for a basic land card if you need to.
Yeah, just versatility on this card. You get to do more stuff, and you know, it's efficiently costed.
Yes.
And you know those fight effects. The more that green can be able to make these, because it's already hard to find a lot of removal in green, but they just keep making these, and like you know they have the MDFC that fights, so it's like it's that plus a land, and now you have this fight spell plus some upside. Yeah. Being
able to be a cantrip. I mean, it's literally just a cantrip if you need it to be.
Yeah, and you know, it's just efficient.
Yeah, but we have a better one now, which I've been playing in Hapatra, Tail Swipe.
Yeah, Tail Swipe.
I like Tail Swipe a lot. Yeah. Which is instant speed. Instant speed green. I call it the green Swords to Plowshare in Hapatra because my snakes have Death Touch. So, yeah.
Moving on to number 6 on our list, it's Teethy Warmlet. It's a 1 mana 1/1 worm. It has Death Touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Whenever an artifact enters a battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Teething Wormlet. it's a card that, you know, is trying to, you know, to me, when I first saw this, I was like, you know, it's trying to fit into a very, very specific kind of deck. You know, if you're making a lot of artifacts in green, you know, we were talking about earlier about how green artifacts can become something that is, you know, getting more support. And like, you know, this card, you know, it's nothing insane, but like, you know, the life gain can be very, very relevant.
Yeah.
The +2, you know, if you put this in like a green red deck and you like Dockside or something like that, you know, it's,
yeah, I mean, even without
life, it's just
even without it, you got Tireless Tracker, Tireless Provisioner. You got cards that, you know, just put clues in the battlefield. You know, all these incidental artifacts. Not only, I mean, it doesn't say instead either. Like, you get the life and you get the counter on the first one, and then it's for each artifact that enters the battlefield, you gain a life. So, I mean, again, 1 mana. This is a lot on a card for 1 mana. Right. I expect to see this card be better in the future than right now, but. I still think it's pretty powerful. It's got a little bit of support right now.
Yeah, and it's 1 mana.
Exactly. I mean, these 1 mana cards are being pushed.
Yeah, the Death Touch is also
touch.
relevant. And like, you know, you're it's like in the right deck, you're gonna have 3 more artifacts. So this will like always have Death Touch. It's really hard to like get around.
Yeah.
For 1 mana. So it's like 1 mana, Death Touch, and life gain upside. And like, you know, this thing can also get bigger as well. So when it's ready to attack, you can send it in, you know, as an attacker. And it just says if this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn. So you can do it every single turn.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have ways to get artifacts every single turn, this thing is just going to get bigger. Yeah. And, you know, if you have life gain synergies, you know, this can also be able to proc those, and it'll just, you know.
I mean, it's just a lot of value. If you can loop Dockside, you have infinite life. I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
It's 1 mana. Again, we keep going back to that. Next card at number 5, a card I'm excited to try out in one of my decks. Sarenth Steelseeker. 2 mana, 1/2, human artificer scout. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under my control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. So again, you know, with these artifacts, you can basically go through your whole deck if you have infinite ways to loop like some sort of, you know, artifact tokens or something like that. But just being able to, you know, look at the top card, maybe draw a card whenever an artifact, it doesn't even say non-token artifact. So like just Dockside for 5, you look at the top 5 cards basically, unless you want to stop and put in your graveyard and just keep it on top of your library. So like, I mean, it doesn't say you put it into your graveyard. You may put it into your graveyard. This card's got a lot of flexibility. It's very efficiently costed. And I think that this is another card that, you know, can see some play.
Yeah, just getting the card advantage for, you know, something that's so easy as artifacts entering. And it's per artifact, right? It just says whenever
an artifact enters the battlefield.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
you'll get multiple triggers if you have multiple artifacts enter the battlefield.
Right. And, you know, you can also fill up your graveyard if you have some like graveyard synergies. Like it's really good.
I really like this card.
Yeah, and like we said, it's efficiently costed.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing too crazy because, like, you know, there's times where they would put an effect like this on like a 5-drop, like a 6-drop, but, you know.
Yeah. 2 mana.
Yep, it's just
good old 2 mana.
2 mana. That's always good. Moving on to number 4, we have Haywire Mite. It's a 1 mana artifact creature insect. Whenever it dies, you gain 2 life. You pay a green, you sack it, exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. This card has a lot of things going for it. For one, it's an artifact, so you know, reducing its cost. Is very easy. You know, you get value when it dies, and you know, more importantly, you can sack it to exile.
Yeah, not destroy, exile.
Exile and not destroy.
Get that underworld breach out of here.
And you don't have to exile it itself.
Right.
You just sack it. So if you can recur this, you know, it's just going to keep on just being
easy to cast. Doesn't require a pip. You can run it in multiple colors if you wanted to. Still drop it on turn 1. I mean, this card is better than Caustic Caterpillar for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because you get that, because it's very rare where you're gonna be like, oh well, I'm going to, you know, I mean, you know, whenever people destroy artifacts or enchantments, it's not like creatures. It's mainly like the really good artifacts and
and you exile them. I mean, that's very, very relevant.
Oh yeah.
No returning that Rhystic Study or Mystic Grimoire from your graveyard to your battlefield.
Right.
Yeah, I really like Haywire Mite. I expect this card to be seen in low color green decks, definitely mono green. I feel like mono green definitely wants to play this, and maybe even 2 colors, maybe even 3 colors. Like it's flexible because it can cost 1 mana and you can reduce it to 0 mana. It could be free if you want it to be. Next on the list, we have at number 3, Titania, Nature's Force. 6 mana, 6/6 legendary elemental. You may play forests from your graveyard. Whenever a forest enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/3 elemental creature token. Whenever an elemental you control dies, you may mill 3 cards. So, I mean, this is a callback on, the original Titania. I don't think it's as good, but I do like how you can mill 3 cards whenever an elemental dies. And then, being able to play your forest from your graveyard, it's just one of those, it's a pretty powerful effect, and I'm sure you could build a pretty strong deck around this card.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those where it's like, you're probably going to be playing it as a commander.
Yeah.
Because, most of your lands are going to be forest for you to be able to get, to get the value and everything. Yeah, it is a cool callback to the OG.
Protector of Argoth.
Yeah, it's very strong. Well, I mean, it's strong, and it's good enough for its cost.
Yeah,
I would say so. It's probably gonna be a pretty popular.
I wonder how I would be interested to see which one's more powerful between this one and the other Titania.
Yeah. The fact that you get to play lands from your graveyard.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Titania is the trigger on lands going into your graveyard instead of entering the battlefield. I think that it's easier to do. So
yeah. Moving on to number 2 on our list, we have Root Path Purifier. It's a 4 mana elf druid. Lands you control and lands in your library are basic.
Yeah.
Would
you like to Prismatic Vista for a Gaia's Cradle run?
Yeah, it's what it is. You get to do some cool stuff like that.
Do some wacky stuff with this card.
Yeah, I mean, it makes all your fetches crop rotations.
Yeah, which is get any land.
Yeah, you just get any land. It's also elf druid. Relevant creature types. I thought about trying this in my Seaton deck.
Seaton, yeah,
because it's a druid. It can tap for mana and plus get this. And if I'm trying to make it more powerful and put like the Gaia's Cradle and stuff like that.
I wish this card was legendary. There's a lot of efficiently costed search your library for the basic land cards because they're basic lands, not regular, not just any land. So
right.
And then I think you could do some cool stuff if this was a legendary creature, but unfortunately it's not. I do still think that the effect is very powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, number 1 card of the Brothers' War, Awaken the Woods. X and 2 green for a sorcery. Create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. They're affected by summoning sickness. Now, this card is bonkers. I mean, these landfall deck, this is really good. In a token deck, this is really good. I mean, landfall decks, they don't have ways to be able to put X lands into play often.
Yeah.
Just dump a bunch of mana into it and put X lands in the battlefield. Like I think this is the only one. You can comment below if I'm wrong. But this is an insane effect.
Like green has like effects where you can like search your library. Like there's like things like Collective Voyage, but like that's for like every player.
Yeah. And
then you have those ones where it's like search your library for like X lands, put them into your hand and stuff like that. But being able to make Dryad Arbors and they're also creatures. So right. It's like it's lands plus creatures, and it's not something crazy where it's like, because normally when people try to do strong X, whenever Wizards prints like strong X spells like this, it's normally on like it's like 2 of the color plus 2 colorless plus X.
Yeah.
and you're getting like the value you would give it would maybe at the max like 2 to 3, but this just 2 green in it.
Yeah.
So you can just put like 3 or 4 into this and make 3 Dryad Arbors. They come into play untapped.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a when I first saw this, I was like, man, like
Yeah.
it's just really interesting. And like this is a card that's probably going to see play.
Oh, this
like,
will see a
probably
ton
more
of
than
play.
just Commander.
Yeah, this will see a lot of play. I mean, it also dodges non-land permanent, board wipes and stuff like that because these are lands.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that this card is very good, and it's going to be an all-star and maybe even a finisher in landfall decks.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there you have it. We have our top 10 cards plus our shout out. If you happen to like this content, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let us know if there was any cards we missed. And let us know what you think about the cards that we chose. I guess with that, we will let y'all go, and we'll see y'all next for the multicolor.